Do you wish you could write really good stuff for your social media posts, for your website, for your blogs, for your emails? But every time you sit down to write, your mind goes blank and you just don't know what to say. Today's episode is for you because I've got Laura McDouall, who is a copywriter on the show, and she's going to share with you her top tips for writing social media and content that connects and converts. Let's do this. Okay, before we do this, hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. Today I am joined by Laura. For anybody that doesn't know what a copywriter is, can you explain a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, totally. So copy, Jenny and I were just saying about how there's that confusion between copywriting and copyright. And definitely when I started out, I had a couple of inquiries from people looking for copyright. So copywriting is just using your words to get other people to do what you want them to do in a very basic way. So wherever you have words on your website, in your emails, in your social posts, the blogs that you write, everything, to me, if you want people to take a next step, if you want them to obviously buy something from you, but also if you want them to watch your videos, if you want them to get your freebie, whatever it is that you want them to, you need those words to drive action, then that is copy to me.
Yeah, brilliant. And so it's so important, especially if we're trying to build our businesses online, that we understand about the power of the word and how to connect. And so often people sort of say to me, oh, but I'm putting all this stuff out and I've got my social media pages, I'm trying to write blogs, or I've got my website, and they're not getting any results. And a lot of that is down to just some simple tweaks in the words and the copy, isn't it? A lot of
totally.
it. So if somebody was sort of starting out, like, what would your basic advice to be to, like, when you start writing things for your business? That's a big question.
But I think the biggest thing is to get really clear on who you're talking to. Because I think there's this thing, isn't there, that when we're posting on social media, we feel like we're writing to thousands of people, or we hope that it's going to be seen by all these people, or maybe you're writing a blog or website copy and you really want it to be seen by thousands of people. But if you try and talk to everybody in your copy, it doesn't connect, it doesn't resonate with anyone at all. And I think it's just stripping it back and getting really, really clear on who it is that you really, really want to talk to, and then just focus on writing to just that one person, even if you hope it's going to be seen by thousands of people. Just trying to get really under the skin of your ideal clients, not in a manipulative way, but the best copy is almost kind of reflecting back to people what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're worrying about. If you can talk about those things in your posts, in your blogs, on your website, the things that they want, the things that they're worried about, then it's just naturally going to start connecting in a whole new way. And I think one of the challenges, like let's say you're sending an email and you've got 100 people or 1,000 people or 5,000 people or whatever it is on your email list, your brain, when you log into MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or wherever you send your emails from, your brain flicks into that emailing my list. I'm emailing my list. And it just doesn't connect. And actually, really little things like just picture one person, write that email to them, write it in your own inbox as if it was a personal email, to writing to somebody you know or want to work with, and then copy and paste it across into MailChimp. It automatically starts to get more powerful because copy is a one-to-one conversation between you and that human being who is sitting on their sofa, looking at their phone, reading your email, reading your blog, reading your posts. And
there's nothing worse than getting something and just feeling that it's not for you, or it's about everybody else. And like, a lot of the time I use this analogy, like, just to try and help people to understand why it's so important. Like, if you go into a field full of horses to catch, you need to catch them all at some point, right? But actually, if you try to catch them all at once, you're going to run around the field and exhaust yourself, and you're going to catch none of them. You'll be really, really lucky. Whereas if you focus on catching one, and you catch that one pony, and you lead it to the gate, and you'll realise that all the others will follow you.
It's very true, yeah.
And you'll be able to catch them.
Yeah, and I think that really helped when I was starting out. There's that, I don't know for anybody who's listening or watching, but if you struggle with confidence and being seen and being judged and putting yourself out there and all of that stuff, I think we all go through it at some point. But that's what really got me through. It was that mantra of, if this just helps one person, If this helps one person today, it's all worth it, because you know in time that one person is going to become 100, is going to become 1,000. But the more you can get your copy feeling like a one-to-one conversation and tapping into, just really trying to get under the skin of your ideal clients and getting intentional with it and writing to them, naturally it's just going to start to connect so much better.
Yeah, definitely. And so when we're writing, whether we're writing for social media posts, or if we're writing for blogs or emails, or even just the information on our websites, if we know who that one person, if we keep them in mind, it really does create this attractive copy, this magnetic connection, doesn't it? That then they sort of go, oh, she gets it, she understands, she knows where I'm at. So one of the things that people always ask me about is like writing for social media. Everybody's that they sit there, they're like, I've got to write social media posts, and they put it off, and then they don't do it, and then they beat themselves up because they're like, well, I couldn't think of what to write. So what would your tips be if you're writing for social media?
Okay, so if we're starting from the very, very, very start of writing for social media, the way that we always do it and the way that we always teach it is to, first of all, get really clear on what you're selling first. So if you're sitting down and thinking about planning your post, planning your content for the month ahead, let's say, it's getting really clear on, okay, what am I focusing on selling this month? Because you might have one-to-one packages, maybe you've got a group program, maybe you're product-based and you've got all these different products and all these different ranges. Maybe you've got gifts for horsey women, and then you do boots, and then you do saddles, like you do all this different stuff. For me, it's about getting really clear first on what am I focused on selling this week or this month, because we are not just rocking up on social media for the crack of it. Like, there has to be a purpose to this. So once you're really clear on what you're selling, then you can break it down into weekly topics. And I love weekly topics because they're just bite size. So every week you come up with a very topic that you can have as your theme for the week. And that's what you talk about on social media. And you don't have to tell your audience this. You don't have to post and say, hey guys, this week we're talking about calls to action, or we're talking about writing your emails. You can do, you don't have to be that blatant with it. But it just means that in your own mind, you kind of know what you're talking about. So for example, if you know that for this month, you're focused on selling a one-to-one coaching package, for argument's sake, and you know that in that coaching package, you take your clients through 4 different stages, then those 4 things can become your weekly topic. So, or if you know that if you're product-based and you know that Christmas is coming up, or Valentine's, or maybe it's the right time of year, and grazing muzzles, maybe you're a retailer and grazing muzzles are going to come into stock. So you have 2 weeks where you're just really focused on talking about grazing muzzles. But you're not just saying, buy my grazing muzzles, they're great, or buy Green Guard, or, you're talking about how to manage grazing, like laminitis. You're talking about all of the stuff that goes around that, about sugars, about how to manage your pony's weight. You can share your own experiences of going through this. There's so much around it. If you can just start by getting clear on what you're selling, and then you can think about the smaller weekly topics that feed into what you're selling. And then from there, you can start to kind of create these posts.
Yeah. And that makes so much sense, because a lot of the time people are like, I don't want to have every post as a sales post, and I don't want to feel like I'm selling. And I feel, they often feel that it's sort of icky and brings up all that anxiety around, I'm trying to sell stuff. Well, you're in business. So
you are.
If we want to eat, if we want to pay the bills and feed our horses, we need to actually make the money. So once they've kind of got their idea of what they're trying to sell, like, then they're like, okay, right, say for example, you've got a photographer.
Yeah.
And they want to get some people booked in for some equine shoots. So they've got sort of some ideas, but then they sit down and they're like, what do I write? Then what do they do?
Yeah. So I'd start by, like I say, getting clear on that next step. So for this post, what do I want people to do? But I think it's about having a mix of different posts. And it's just starting with the easiest ones first. So if you're sitting down to write a week's worth of posts, you want some that are pretty much sales posts that say, hey, I've got 3 slots available for photo shoots this month. Here's how you can work with me. You want some posts that are sharing your beautiful photography. You want some posts that are telling the stories of those people. So maybe telling the stories of those those clients and those photo shoots and their relationship with their horses. You maybe want some posts talking about why you're a photographer, why you love it so much, why you're so passionate about this, why you're an equine photographer, where that started, where the joy is for you. You might even want to give people some tips about how to take their own photographs, because by doing that, people realize they're rubbish at taking their own photographs and they really need your help. Maybe you have some posts talking about time you lost your horse and it broke your heart and how you wish you had more memories there. Like, there's so much more you can do than just feel like you're selling all the time. And I think it's a bit of a mindset shift of getting into that space and realizing that, you know, people are on social media to be entertained, to be distracted. So people buy from people they like, and they buy from people they feel are like them. So if you can get more comfortable with sharing your passion, sharing your expertise, sharing your knowledge, it's going to build those connections so much more deeply. And, you know, social posts, they shouldn't feel like this massive noose around your neck. And if they are, then maybe you're just not talking about the right stuff yet. And actually, maybe talking about why you love photography so much, or sharing some simple tips about how to get your horse in shot, or about lighting. Maybe that's an easy way in just to get the words flowing. But there's so much more you can do with this than just feeling like, oh, I've got to post something today and it's got to sell.
Yeah. And sometimes, I think sometimes people like to overcomplicate it, because then when they've got it written, they're like, oh, it's not perfect. My spelling might be wrong, or it isn't how I was taught to write. Yeah. And I know it's one of the things that you often talk about in a lot of the way that you teach people is like, don't write always the way that we were taught.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's okay.
Yeah, especially on social media, because I can't remember if I said it earlier or not, but the best copy is a one-to-one conversation between you and that other human being who's reading your post on their phone. That's the reality. And one of the biggest problems I see with social posts is that they're just too formal, especially if your background before you did what you're doing now and you followed your passion. You know, if you started your career as a teacher or in legal or in the corporate world or in, you know, quite a technical job, quite often we bring that forward with us and it's just a little bit too formal. And or we feel like we have to be professional. And obviously this is about finding the right balance for you. If you're, I don't know, a physiotherapist or an osteopath or something like that, yes, of course, I'm not saying that you start writing slang and swearing everywhere, but it is about writing, like Jenni says, it's writing as you talk. And if you do get stuck with this, just getting away from your desk, stopping looking at the phone, stopping putting all the pressure on yourself to churn out these posts, go for a walk, get your dog, go and see your horse, go for a walk, get your phone out and get a voice transcription app. There are thousands of them out there that are completely free. My favorite is an app called otter.ai, which is like the little creature that lives in rivers, otter. I think it's called Otter Go to Meeting Notes or something, but it is a voice transcription app. Go for a walk and just talk it out, get it out of your head. So what would you say to these people that you really want to work with if you're on Zoom with them, if you're messaging them, if you are out networking with them? Like, what would you say? How would you help them? What stories have you got to tell? Talk them all out first. By the time you get back to your desk, the transcription's kind of been emailed to you, but then you've got a starting point that you can start polishing up a little bit and adding your calls to action stuff. But if you're feeling really, really blocked, then that can be a great way just to get the juices flowing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so important that we do connect with people. Like, there's so many different levels that people need to be able to buy and work with you, and it's always an emotional decision, like sales, isn't it? Like, we like to think that if you give people all the facts, they're going to know that that's the right choice, but it's not. It's about whether they feel that it's right. And if you're not meeting them where they're at, like, I often talk about coming alongside my clients. Like, I don't feel that I come along where they're at on the ground and I leg them up. That's where I want to be. Because yes, I've got lots of knowledge and lots of qualifications and I could lord it over them, but actually that isn't beneficial to anybody, and it certainly won't connect. So yes, it's kind of like getting that balance between what is professional and what is real.
And horses in particular, the whole equine world is one of the most emotional places to be as a business owner. Even if what you do doesn't feel that emotional, maybe you do bitting, or you're an equine dentist, or like I say, you're a physiotherapist or an osteopath or a Reiki practitioner, or something where, yes, you want to be professional, you want that credibility, but your ideal clients love their horses. They want a back specialist because they're worried their horse is in pain. They want a new bit because they're worried that their horse isn't comfortable. They just want that feeling of lightness and floatiness and oneness with their horse in their hands. Like, it is such an emotional thing, owning a horse. I've had horses all my life, and, you know, it really, really is. And if we just give them all the what and the why and the, you know, if it's all quite transactional at quite a high superficial level, it's just not going to connect. And this is why telling your stories and talking about your horse and your journey and your passion and how you came to be where you are professionally, it's a really, really powerful thing. And you might think, oh, that's not relevant to my business, but it is, because it's all building those relationships.
Yeah, and that's how we sell, isn't it? It's not about convincing somebody to buy your stuff. It's about helping them to make that decision. And,
totally.
And I often say you can never put the right client off. Like, if they're the right client,
they'll work with you at some point.
Yeah, they're going to be the right client. They just might be at a different stage in their journey. So it's kind of just helping them to move along and to not be frightened of putting people off. Because actually, if your copy does put people off, they're normally the wrong people. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's good. It's brilliant.
Like, we need our copy to be polarizing. And this is going it's going off on a tangent almost, but, you know, we need, the whole point of your copy is that you want to attract the people that are perfect for you and repel everybody else. We've all got those clients in the past, but we've all had clients, or maybe even have clients now, who are just a complete pain in your backside. Like, they always try and batter you down on price, or they don't turn up on time for appointments, or you give them an inch and they take a mile, they drain your energy, they don't pay on time. Like, you just don't like working with them. And if your copy is right, you naturally start to repel those people, and you just attract the people that are perfect for you, because they love you, they love your energy. The right sort of clients. It's like, even like you go through all the Facebook groups, you've got all the saddlers, and everybody's always saying, oh, I need a back person, or I need a saddler, and you suddenly get all these lists of people in, like, I wouldn't use that one. Whereas actually, if you're talking about how that makes you feel as a business owner, how actually you understand that everybody's doing their best, and then you're going to get the right clients who go, do you know what, I know that she's going to give me her best with what she's got. And like, horses, they're hard work, aren't they? Really hard work.
We don't always but it's about having the right heart. And so I always get people in to help me with my horses that I know are coming on the same level. I know that they've got my horse's best interest, my best interest. And so by sharing that in your copy, in what you're putting out there, because even sometimes it's not just the written word, is it? It's like how we just present ourselves
all the time.
Whether we're using sort of email, or if we're doing video or whatever, it all still relates, and it all sort of intermingles, doesn't it? So once we've got something we know we're going to write about, and people are actually looking at their captions, what would your next steps be to make sure that they really do get a result?
So 3 things to do. There's like 1,000 things that you could do, but the 3 big things, I think. So number 1, first of all, just write it. Don't edit yourself as you go. Please, please, please don't try and edit yourself as you go. If you write a sentence or a paragraph, let's say you're sitting down to write a week's worth of posts, or even just 4 or 5 posts. If you try and get that paragraph perfect before you move on to the next one, or you try and get that post perfect before you write the next one, we just get stuck. We get stuck so quickly. Copy's never perfect for a start, but we just get stuck. So the first thing I would say is just write them down. Just get them out of your head onto the page, because then we've got something to work with. And I think especially for business owners, entrepreneurs, we are our own worst critics, and we have this negative chatter that tells us what we just written is a load of rubbish. Like, you just have to ignore that for now. Just get it down first. Then we've got something to work with. The next thing to do is to read it aloud. And I know that sounds really stupidly simple, but once you've written it, read it out loud. Because when you read it in your head, your eyes and your brain will see what you think you've written. When you read it aloud and you listen to those words that are coming out of your mouth, you start to see where you've missed words out, like to or the. You start to see the silly typos and the spelling mistakes. But you also start to hear if you're starting to ramble on or waffle. You start to hear if you're repeating yourself anywhere, or if you're saying the same thing twice, just in slightly different ways, which is really boring and people switch off. You start to hear the mistakes, and then you can put them right. You can correct the typos, you can delete the bit or rephrase the bit that you waffle on in. So just get the words down first, then read it aloud. And then specifically for social media, I think the biggest thing is the white space. So the white space is as important as your words, especially if you're writing your posts in Word first and copying and pasting them over. So a paragraph that doesn't look that long in Word or on on pages can look really long on a phone screen. So think about, how can I break this down? It's with social media posts, it is so much easier for people to just scroll than it is for them to wade through these big blocks of text. And if it just looks like hard work, they'll just click off. They're not going to read it. So just press enter, like put stuff onto new lines, use emojis to break stuff up. If you're posting in groups, you can put it in bold, or you can put bullet points in. You can use emojis as bullet points. Just ask yourself, how can I make this as easy as possible for my reader to consume? And a little bonus, we talked about this earlier, but just if it's a little bit long-winded, if it still looks a bit long, if you've got long sentences, just take the commas out and replace them for full stops. Simple. And instantly those sentences get shorter and snappier and more punchy. And it's okay to start sentences with and but and so and because this is social media. You're not writing a thesis. It's not the way we were taught to write at school, where there's always rules. Like, this is copy. It has to sound like a conversation, like you talk. It has to connect. So simply taking out those commas and replacing them with full stops can be a really, really helpful thing for your posts. But yeah, white space is super important.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've had a few clients that said to me, oh, but this post, I wrote this really good post, and I know it's really good, and it's not getting any results or any traction. And I've gone and looked and just said, well, it is a good post, but it's just all one. And then I was like, if you actually now break it up, I can read it. I can't, my brain just goes, I don't know about anybody else, but I can't read stuff on phones very easily. Text makes your eyes go funny. So make it easy, isn't it? By breaking it up, white space, adding in some words in full caps to draw attention. Yeah. So as you said, add in the emojis. So is there any other writing tips that we should be aware of, especially when we're using social media to grow our businesses and writing those captions?
Don't forget your call to action. I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? And I think that for so many of us, we either shy away from calls to action altogether. So maybe you say something, but there's no call to action. And I think it's about recognizing that pretty much everything needs a call to action, but not everything needs to be a sales post. So when you post, sometimes in a week, you'll have some calls to action. My favorite call to action, my sales call to action. If you're ready to take the next step, click here now to book a call in my diary. Click here now to book your appointment today. If you're ready to take the next step, it feels really nice, really aligned. It's not pushy or salesy or spammy, but actually everything is a call to action. If you want people to comment on your post, ask them to comment on your post. Ask them to tell you what they think. Even just asking a question can act almost as like a really soft mini call to action. So if you've made a statement, you've told a story, you've shared something, you've shared a tip or a fact, just ask people, anybody else ever feel this way? Have you ever been through this? Let me know in the comments if you struggle with this. Is this helpful? What are your tips for this? Just ask people a question and it automatically opens up that dialogue.
Yeah, especially if people want engagement. It's like I often say to it, spell it out, make it easy for people to engage. Sometimes they read what you've written and just go, okay. And
so I think it's about being mindful of when I actually want to be engaging on social media, because engagements go both ways. People engage with you, you need to engage. So there will be times when I don't want to engage with people on social media, but I still want to be showing up for my business, but I don't want to be engaging. I don't want to be getting into conversations on my phone on a Sunday night, for example, because for me, Sunday night's a family time. So on a Sunday night, I won't post something that's designed to open these big conversations. But at other times of the week, that's when I'm mentally and physically available to have those discussions. So that's when I'll post those engagement posts. So I think it's about figuring out your content mix and just getting really clear about when you want to have those comments, because not every post needs to get millions of comments on it, but it's a good idea a couple of times a week to post something specifically to start a conversation. Think of it as a conversation starter. Those are your engagement posts. And then a couple of posts a week where you're sharing what you know, you're giving a tip, you're giving some advice and giving people a next step, maybe to go and watch a live or to download a freebie. And then a couple of times a week, you're posting directly about how people can work.
Yeah.
And as a starting point, that's a really nice balance.
Yeah, so it just feels like it's a mix. Like, don't feel like every single post you've got to spend hours and hours writing all this content, and because actually you're just going to switch your audience off. They're just going to be like, I don't want to read 5 essays a week. Like, it's worse than being at school. Yeah, so it's about being aware of who your audience is, where you're actually posting, and what else, and of course making sure that you include that call to action, because as you say, it's mega important, and you can't get what you don't ask for.
You can't. And it's like, if you think about it, like having a conversation with somebody that you don't know in real life, you wouldn't just walk up to somebody and like start talking in their face. You kind of have these social cues, don't you, to have a conversation, and that's what these posts are. They're just think of them as conversation starters, I think, and it's a really good way to get past that mental barrier.
Yeah, and then you don't have to make it too much. Like, sometimes the best thing to do is when you want to do an engagement post, ask people how they're feeling about something. Ask their opinion. It doesn't have to be a complicated.
Ask them what they're up to with their horses today. Ask them the best. Ask them why they love their horses so much. Ask them the best, or what their plans are for summer, or what their ask them how COVID has affected their horses' fitness. Like, ask them anything, because social media, it can't just be, like I say, people are there to be entertained and to be distracted and to build those relationships. And not every post has to be like this major, big deal, essay, stressful thing. It's just about helping people see who you are. And like Jenny said earlier with the example of a saddler, like, just help people see that you're real, that you're genuine, that you care, and that you're passionate about what you do, because that is so attractive.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so important, especially sort of when we are online and we are doing social posts. And if you have done a good post and you haven't got the engagement, and you don't be disheartened.
Don't stress it, because it's not just you. There's algorithms at play. There's a billion other things. Like, sometimes I posted in my group the other day, because I'm talking a lot right now on Zoom and on client sessions, and I'm getting my voice is going. I'm getting a really sore throat. I asked in my group a really quick question, like, has anybody got any tips to save my cheese grater throat? And it got like so many comments, and that's not what my group is about. But it is like, sometimes you'll put your heart and soul in something and it doesn't connect, and other times you'll do something throwaway and it'll go mad. And that's just the way. It's not a reflection on you. It's just the way social media is.
Yeah, definitely. And just go, do you know, perhaps the algorithm, it's not about me. Yeah, or have a look and go, why didn't they? Oh yeah, actually, I forgot my call to action. I didn't actually ask them to like the post, or I didn't actually say comment below, or let me know.
Or maybe you scheduled it while Boris was talking about the kids going back to school, or maybe you scheduled it. Like, there's so many different factors at play. If you've been flogging away at this consistently for a little while now, like months, and you're still not getting traction at all, then something needs to change. Maybe it is just too formal, the way that you're writing, and it's just putting people off a little bit. Maybe you're not getting far enough underneath your ideal client's skin to really start talking about the stuff that they want to talk about. Because we all engage on stuff that's interesting and relevant to us. So maybe you're just not talking about the right stuff yet. Maybe it's a thing, like Jenny said earlier, that your posts are just a bit too blocky and a bit too hard to read, and they're just putting people off. Like, there's so many factors at play. But don't take it to heart, and just keep learning. Like, it's all a process. You've got to be prepared to do it badly. You can't improve if you don't make mistakes, if you don't get it wrong. And like, sometimes I'll put things out there and be like, what, I obviously didn't read that one aloud, because it's like, but again, it just shows people that I'm real, and that we're all real. We're all totally real.
And it's okay. It's okay. Nobody's going to go, oh, she's really unprofessional because she wrote abs instead of today. It's like, no.
And there's no such thing as a social media police. Like, they don't exist. You can't get it wrong. The only way to get it wrong is by not showing up.
The only social media police are normally like your loving mums or your sisters or your aunts. Oh, I didn't like what you did there today. And it's not about them. They're not your ideal clients. So yeah. So as long as you are still showing up and serving and putting it through in your copy, in what you're putting out there, then that's all that matters. So if anybody wants to find out more about how they can write better, whether it's for their website, whether it's for their social media, whether it's for emails or blogs, how do they need to get in touch with you, Laura?
Come on over to the Facebook group. It's probably the best thing to say. It's a free community on Facebook. We are called the Copywriting Project. The Copywriting Project. And there's just loads of stuff in there to do with copy. It's an awesome community. But yeah, we're live every week talking about all things copy, from like calls to action to your weekly emails to your website copy. Everything's in there. So you're very, very welcome to come over and join us there.
Yeah, it's a very good community, and there's so much that we can learn off, Laura. And even if it's just every time you watch a live or whatever, you just pick up one little tip and you think, oh, I'm going to put that in. That's how you start to get better. That's how you raise the bar and you get better. And we all start at scratch, especially if you're new to social media or your business is new. So it will really help. So do get over into Laura's group. I can thoroughly recommend it. Thank you so much for joining me today, Laura.
My pleasure. It's lovely to see you.
It's been really, really lovely. And I know you've done some training, especially for my Nail It Mastermind as well. So that's also in my mastermind area. So for anybody that joins my mastermind, you'll be able to access some fantastic training from Laura as well. So for now, thank you ever so much.
My pleasure.
And, I will make sure I put all the links into the comments and the show note area, so that anybody that wants to follow and find Laura, please do head there and make sure that you go and join in Laura's group and learn as much as you can. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have got lots of great tips out of this episode. Do go and join Laura's Facebook group. I'll put the links below. And if you'd like to know any more about how I support equine entrepreneurs, do head to jennibush.com. If you've got any suggestions for anything that you'd like to hear or see on the show, please do send me a message, hello@jennibush.com, because I'd love to make sure that I'm bringing you content every single week that actually really supports your businesses. But for now, kick on, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe.